In a world awash in uncertainty.
Get off my back. I'm trying the best I can.
Wait, what?
Swamp Thing?
Yeah, I know Swamp Thing, but why did he not resurface?
Well, he hasn't been in movies for 20, 30 years now.
I'm pretty sure that means that they shift him.
Two brave heroes take on all things action. Hey guys, welcome to All Things Action Videocast. I am the guy in charge of this crazy thing, Aaron, aka Dad, and with me today is a very special guest. We are very excited to have Kyle from the Knowledge from the Couch podcast.
That's right.
My favorite podcast in the history
you.
of podcasting. Kyle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. No
I'm
problem.
ready to talk about some goddamn superheroes, dude. Let's do it.
And you are you would consider yourself kind of a connoisseur of all things action, correct?
I think so. You know, I've been a pretty loyal watcher of the show since its inception, and while we don't have exactly the same, crossroads of interests, I think a lot of our interests do intersect. So I think the one we have most in common is comic book and superhero type movies. But I do enjoy a good action flick now and again. Obviously, for sure. Yes,
absolutely.
I'm into it.
Well, obviously, we're heading into the summer months, and so that is a prime time for, well, it doesn't seem like the summer months. It's really like spring months.
Yeah.
But eventually we're going to get there, and we've got some exciting news as far as DC's concerned, as far as Marvel/Disney's concerned, and Black Panther is freaking crushing it. Again, I think we're on week 3 now, they're just killing it at the box office.
They are.
So
it's pretty nuts. I went and saw it with my wife on opening night. Actually,
Wow.
We went and saw it. So the theater was completely packed through, and I remember when I saw Iron Man in the theaters back in 2008. So it's been a decade now since they started this whole thing that they had sort of planned out from the beginning, and it's been a while since. I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say it's been a while since I felt, like the coolness of the movie since I saw Iron Man. But I think Thor Ragnarok was also super cool. Like they
awesome movie.
They did a good 1-2 punch with the two of those, and I think they've started to finally figure out their audience. The original Marvel movies, the original Captain America, Iron Man, even the first Thor, the Hulk was whatever it was. But they really got like a really good grasp of like who was gonna watch their movie, and it was like really cool. They kind of did the whole we're gonna make realistic superheroes, as realistic as a comic book can be.
I think that's really a smart way to look at how Marvel's gone about their blueprint.
But I think the best part of what Marvel's doing now is once they figured out that they wanted to make Thanos the big bad and bring in the galactic components, because they're already working a couple legs short. They don't have X-Men.
Correct.
They don't have Galactus and the Fantastic Four. So they don't have some of the really big villains and major popular superheroes at their disposal, but they have a lot of them, and they did a really good job of bringing that in. I think the best thing that Marvel did was they started to embrace the wacky, weird, space, mystical, universal stuff, because when you think about it, it's like, who wants to watch that stuff? And we can watch like Robert Downey Jr. like hammer
Chew
stuff,
the screen,
and it just like beat up his suit and like make a cool suit, and it looks really realistic. Like, why would we want to see a raccoon and Chris Pratt fly around in space? But then it's like, it's amazing. It's like they did such a good job steering into the mystical component, and that's, I think, partially the reason why Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther have worked so well, because Black Panther, if you haven't seen it, sorry, we might spoil a little bit.
I haven't seen it.
Have you not?
Don't spoil it.
Have you not seen it?
I haven't.
Really?
No,
God damn.
We're just so freaking busy. But yeah,
but
I think what the thing that you're kind of getting to is like they've been able to take things that don't seem like they would work.
Mm-hmm.
Thor. He is a fantasy character through and through.
Yep.
And then you have Guardians of the Galaxy, which, for my money, as far as just purely Marvel ventures goes, those two movies are the best movies that they made so far.
Yep.
I mean, you can argue all day, every day, and like I said, I haven't seen Black Panther yet, but the fact that they were able to take a guy who's called Yondu, who is a blue guy with a red mohawk that nobody freaking knew unless you read the comic books, and not only did they make him likable because they cast a really strong guy who's just the freaking most cool guy in the world. They, spoiler alert,
Michael Rooker.
They also make his character a pivotal point in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, nobody should have cared what happened to Yondu in any movie. He should have been a quick write-off as, oh, this is where Star-Lord came from, he's chasing me still, and that's it. Instead, it's like, oh, shit.
He becomes a super important piece
he becomes
of the second
father
movie.
Figure that Tony Stark could never be in any of these movies. Tony Stark's role, I believe, in these movies is he's trying to be the father figure.
The dad of the Avengers. But
he cannot be the father figure because he's Tony Stark.
He can't be the father figure, by the way, because he never really respected his father figure. And Howard Stark, before Howard was, as we saw in Civil War, you know, we finally see how he is killed by the Winter Soldier, him and his wife. And, you know, Tony Stark was always immature to begin with, and then he went through a pivotal growth moment in his career and life without his dad there. So I think he feels like he needs to be the father of the Marvel, the Avengers and everything, but he just isn't great at it because he never really had his dad there either. And then he sees Captain America, you know, his dad's pet project, basically, become his
greatest success, his greatest failure.
Yeah, and he becomes, like, when he comes, you know, unfrozen, he becomes this, like, superstar and the classic American guy, and you could tell that bugs him, you know, and obviously it comes to a head in Civil War. But you know, kind of on the original point I was sort of going on, and it's okay that we ventured a little bit, and we are probably going to do this a few times. Them embracing the weirdness and mysticalness of comic books in general, I think it shows you, like, the nuts that they have to do that sort of thing. Because when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I'm not as much of a connoisseur of comic books as Aaron is, so I had never read, I didn't know who any of those characters were, and I love that movie. It's amazing. It's a well done Marvel movie because they picked a director, and I think it's James Gunn. And you knew he respected the content. They cast that movie super well. They cast the whole shebang really well, and they just nailed it. And it was such a weird movie with weird characters and weird stuff, but it just works. And I feel like it's Kevin Feige, I think, is the guy who, like, Feige. Yeah. Sorry, he does the whole, you know, he's the producer,
the overseer,
so to speak, the Uatu, the watcher of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Only he does interfere quite a bit, but he's the blueprint guy, and I have to give him props, especially for Marvel, for really steering into the weird and hiring directors not just because, say, they're super proven, but because they're into it. Right. You can say the same thing for Thor Ragnarok, and that director whose name just escapes me now, but the New Zealander. Right. He's so cool. He's just funny. He's wacky, but he's so good at his job, and he, like, injects that into that movie, and it plays off like Chris Hemsworth's strength as actually, like, a comedic type of actor, but, like, he is Thor. So you get a lot of cool out of the weirdness of that movie, and it just hits every note the right way.
Is, again, just like James Gunn, that director and those story writers were able to take a write-off character in Korg. Korg in the comic books is literally he's the thing without having any kind of personality or anything. He's literally a write-off character. And now they're talking about making Korg a central figure in upcoming
Thor movies.
It's amazing. And so, like I was kind of saying too, was taking a fantasy character and going, you know what would work really well, and this is going to tie it all in? Let's throw the fantasy guy who lives in outer space and have him connect with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
And I think it's beautiful how they're able to build that. It took a lot of movies to get that. It's incredible to make the connotation or the leap that those guys took, that Marvel took, and have such trust in what was happening, because we all saw it. They had before Iron Man came out, like you said, they had 2 or 3 incarnations of the Hulk.
Yep.
They had Ghost Rider. They had the Punisher. They had the Punisher 3 freaking times, and he still hasn't gotten over. But gosh darn it, once they figured it out, it's like, okay, and they still paid homage to the movies in the past. You still, I mean, when Iron Man came out, there was the general at the end of the movie as a throwaway from the Hulk. You know, and so they went, well, Edward kind of screwed us, but we're gonna stay with this, you know, and so good for them. Just to kind of tie into this, Black Panther is beating Red Sparrow and Death Wish at the box office. We're recording this on Saturday night, and like I said, this is week 3 as of Friday. So yesterday, Black Panther at the box office was making $16 million. For contrast, Red Sparrow was at $6 million. I found out that Jennifer Lawrence gets naked in that movie. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Now you do.
No, I guess we know that.
Death Wish was at $4 million. Game Night, which we will talk about in a little bit, in a roundabout way, was at $3 million. And so far, Black Panther has grossed, as of yesterday, $451 million freaking dollars at the box office. They are saying that this standalone movie is going to make $1 billion when all is said and done.
I mean, because I'm assuming the gross that you found is domestic United States
domestic
gross.
United States
gross.
So
once you factor in the world gross, the international gross, and over time, and then especially when downloads and disc sales come available, I mean, that movie's easily going to make $1 billion, which is outrageous. I mean, it's a really good movie. I mean, you haven't seen it yet, but you should. When you get
Probably
out
tomorrow.
to it.
Who knows?
There you go. It's good though. I mean, and like I was saying originally, you know, they do such a good job of making Wakanda like a cool, futuristic, like, you know, this sort of melding of like African culture and futuristic tech. I mean, they're just so far ahead of everybody on Earth. It's just not even funny. And you know, that's them again steering into the weirdness of like, this is technology that nobody could really even imagine, and just is what it is. You know,
we're going to put that nobody knows.
Yep, and we're going to put that in a Marvel movie, and we're just going to make it happen. And you know, the talent they cast in that movie is extremely good. Chadwick Boseman does such a great job as the
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan is extremely good as
steals
Killmonger.
the show.
He
basically.
does. He does such a good job, and without spoiling anything, if I can, of putting the pain of Eric Killmonger's childhood, you know, into the adult version of his character, why he's motivated to do what he does with T'Challa, the Black Panther, and everything you see in there. And Angela Bassett is cast so well as the King Mother, I guess you could call her. She's Black Panther's mother.
Yeah.
You know, everything is so well done and well thought of. Even like Martin Freeman reprises his role as like the CIA agent or whatever, and he's awesome in the movie too, which is so weird because he plays an American.
Yeah.
But every time I see him, I can't not see him as British, you know. But I'm like, this is strange. But he does such a good job because Marvel just picks the right people, like 95% of the time, and there's stinkers, obviously here and there. You can't be perfect, but. I can't think of a single Marvel movie, really, that I was just like, man, this movie just is garbage. I mean, they're all worth seeing, I think, in the theaters, if you can get out to see one. I mean, Ant-Man was a surprise.
Ant-Man was beautiful,
was so
too.
good.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is coming soon.
Yep.
That should be super cool. I love Thor. Some people were really down on Thor and Thor 2 before Ragnarok, which is awesome. I've loved all three.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why anybody would.
But I like
that.
I like the
even
character.
the second one, the Dark World. I thought was
cool.
okay.
Yeah,
know?
it's not maybe as great as they could be, but I think it's well done. I like Thor as a character too, so that's fun. I mean, Iron Man 3 probably wasn't the best part of a trilogy.
2 and 3 is a little iffy, but. You know,
they're riding high at that Iron Man.
You look
flavor.
back on them, and they start to be endearing. So,
and he does, and Tony Stark. You know, Robert Downey playing Tony Stark. Actually, they found a great niche for him, being basically like an also-ran in other Marvel movies, like Homecoming. He's great in, even though he's only in it for like 10-ish minutes with Peter Parker in Civil War. Stuff like that where he just kind of appears for a while and does whatever. Like, it's well done. I'm just gushing over Marvel. And I wish so bad that I could gush over DC too, because honestly, I am a bigger comic book fan of DC than Marvel.
I am too.
I love DC Comics, and they just have not done, in my opinion, a job worth a shit besides maybe Christopher Nolan's Batman.
So let's get into that. That's a great segue, because it sounds like Flashpoint may have their director or directors. So John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein are the two directors that are helmed to take on the Flashpoint paradox. If you don't know these guys or they don't ring a bell, they are the guys who directed Game Night, which is currently out, like I said, right now. It's doing $3 million at the box office. So something that I would never watch is actually getting $3 million at the box office.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Emily and I went and saw it as well, my wife and I, and we enjoyed it. It was a really fun, if you like Jason Bateman, then you will like Game Night. It's a very Jason Bateman-y type thing.
Sure.
If you're into his type of comedy, Arrested Development, whatever have you, that he's in, Horrible Bosses, stuff like that. If you're into that kind of comedy, then you will like Game Night. So
maybe we will watch it.
Yeah, you should.
We are Horrible Bosses fans. But you guys probably know him more so because they directed Spider-Man Homecoming. We've talked about it a couple of times on the show. Raiden, apparently that's his favorite movie.
It's a good one.
I think it's his favorite movie because it's the last movie that he saw. So when we go see Black Panther, that will be his favorite movie.
So he liked... Did he not see Ragnarok?
He did, and that was probably his favorite movie before that. You know?
I think it's more favorite because as common watchers of the show know, usually it's Aaron and his son Raiden, who is 9 years old.
Yep, 9 now.
So a young kid. I mean, Peter Parker is probably the very best, most relatable-ish. I mean, obviously Peter Parker's a teen.
Yeah.
But still, it's a young kid. He's in school still. He's got weird... So when you watch it, I mean, he's a little bit away from it, but he's really, like, in the same wheelhouse. It's different than watching, like, Thor, who's just a god in the middle of nowhere, or, like, Tony Stark, a billionaire old guy, you know? So it's like... You know, and Homecoming was super well done. Keaton as a Vulture was fantastic.
Spot on.
He was a very good Vulture. Much better than any Vulture characterization I could think of for the movies. And I hold the original Spider-Man trilogy, the third one, whatever. But I hold the first two in very high regard.
The second one might be still one of the best comic book movies ever made.
I think the first one was nearly as good, too. Yeah. Like, I remember... This is before...
That really got the teen angst part of Peter Parker. So
Tobey Maguire, for all the ridiculousness that they made him do in the third Spider-Man movie, in the first two, I think he nailed Peter Parker as good as anybody is going to. You know, the weird, awkward, you know, pretty girlfriend, but I'm dumb, but I'm also, like, amazing because I'm Spider-Man. Like, how to balance it, how to be a poor college kid, yet a superhero at the same time. You know, it's... I remember
how to deal with love when you can't love someone.
Yeah, you know, or she won't love you at the same time or whatever. And I remember when, you know, we're talking about Marvel movies now from 2008 to now, 10 years of the MCU, because these other movies aren't part of that universe, obviously. But
it's hard to believe.
I remember when X-Men came out in like 2000, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, actually. I mean, it's weird, but it's not bad. And obviously all those characters kept on for the entirety of X-Men. They've, you know, Logan was fantastic.
And they were able to tie it all together in Days of Future Past.
Yep. So. And you know, X-Men Apocalypse was reasonable. I mean, there were some points, and
you're going to take the good with the bad.
We'll talk a little bit about the future of some of the X-Men here later on. But you know, those were all just kind of standalones, and I didn't like the Fantastic Four. I thought I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is my opinion on the Fantastic Four. I don't think anybody's going to be able to make a good Fantastic Four. I think it's impossible.
I think
they tried it like 20 times. They just can't do it.
I think it's kind of like the Punisher thing too. Like, I'm a huge Punisher fan. Out of all the Marvel entities and everything, they got tons of characters. The Punisher for me is bar none probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
But the problem is that he's a very dynamic character.
He's a mature character as well.
Yes,
extremely.
And it's kind of like Fantastic Four. They are. It would seem that if the world was the way that it should be, Guardians of the Galaxy would have never been made because Fantastic Four would have taken that place. It would have been more about their adventures in outer space and like finding new planets and
you know what?
Interacting.
That's
and
a good
stuff
point
like
that I don't think I've ever thought of. Is if you didn't have Guardians in space, you'd have the Fantastic Four in space and the Silver Surfer and Galactus with all the things they don't have access to. Right. It would be cool if it was in this universe, but
maybe in a roundabout way, now that everything's kind of changed, that might happen.
Yeah,
but who knows?
And it's weird because you think of core, and we mentioned them at the top of the show, but core Marvel franchises like the Avengers, which actually wasn't nearly as popular as it is now.
It wasn't a main franchise, yeah.
The X-Men were a main franchise. The Fantastic Four were a main franchise. You know, stuff like that you just don't have in the universe, but they've done so well without them that honestly, I don't think you really need to bring that many more of them in to keep your universe fresh. Like, the Fantastic Four, to me, the only character of the four of them that is even worth the shit to try to bring in is Reed Richards as Mr. Fantastic. Because he's super intelligent, and if you've read some of the more recent line that they've done, Reed Richards is part of like the massive council that helps take care of the Infinity Stones and stuff, because he's like a super genius and he's just the dude. But like Sue Storm and Johnny Storm and the Thing, whose name escapes me now, clobbering time, Ben, all kind of like the Thing is like a crappy version of the Hulk, basically. I mean, he isn't, but he kind of is, you know, when you think about it. There's already a character that's huge and punches stuff already. Sue Storm turns invisible. I mean, it is what it is. And the Human Torch, we can't have him anymore because he became Captain America, and he's much better as Captain America. And Michael B. Jordan was the Human Torch, and he's much better as Eric Killmonger. So
if you ever want to cast somebody to be a main character,
they got to make him the Human Torch
in the future.
First.
Make him the Human Torch first, and they'll hate it, and then they'll realize that there's greener grass out there.
I remember watching the newest Fantastic Four with Michael B. Jordan and the rest of them, and it was garbage. I mean, that is maybe one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. I was just so bland and.
But again,
it
goes back to, it's not just who you cast; it's who you cast to do the directing, to do the writing. And that's the problem, is they took somebody whose whole niche was sleight of hand video. And so how are you going to put something out there that's 90 to 120 minutes where, we took a director who is, their main thing is like, I'm going to take the camera and then I'm going to go like this and this and this real quick. And I'm going to make a movie out of it. It doesn't work. It's like taking the fucking Blair Witch Project director and being like, hey, man.
You can make a blockbuster movie,
let's go ahead and make you do the Hulk. You know,
like,
it's not going to happen. So, I don't know, man.
It's tough.
As far as going back to the Flashpoint thing, though, and the director part, and this is where it all kind of ties together, is I liked Spider-Man Homecoming. I haven't seen Game Night. But it sounds like the reason why these two gentlemen got that gig for Flashpoint is because they walked in with those two movies and they said, we want to make the Flash like this. Flashpoint Paradox is a very, very dense story, and it's a very emotional story, and it's a very graphic story. I mean, it's not like graphic bloody, but it's a very it tears at the fabric of all things that is DC, and I really have my apprehensions as taking a team of guys who, it looks like, now I'm sure they have tons of other movies and they probably have their own movies. It sounds like they're a little more whimsical, lighthearted, you know, and it's like, I don't want that in DC right now. Like, I feel like they went that direction, and it's because it's a reactionary thing.
It's reactionary. And that's exactly right. It's reactionary.
It shot him in the foot. You know? And so, why do that again? Like, go back to being brooding. I want my Batman. I don't care that he kills people. I really don't. I know everybody
and that's an unpopular opinion.
I know it is, but here's the deal. Batman at first used guns. I don't know if anybody knew that.
Some old DC comics.
Batman at first was a killer. It's okay. It's not okay that he's a killer, but it's okay to like go with the source material, you know. And maybe that's the thing that they should have really harped on, was like, Superman could make Batman not kill anymore. He could
he's
show
a
him
better
the way.
conscience.
He could show him the way.
Yeah.
Instead, they went like, I don't know. I think you're just like I am, and everybody else is, where they say there's just something that's amiss right now. And I think that going with the hot hand as it's probably looked at right now is like, oh well, he can do for Flash. We're gonna make Flash our Spider-Man. Yeah. Great. Okay, make him your Spider-Man. The problem is don't do it in Flashpoint, because Flashpoint is so dense. You've got a time travel where you cross dimensions and you wind up in a place where Batman is not Bruce Wayne.
It's Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. And Bruce is dead.
Yep.
How is that lighthearted?
It's going to be
how
really
is that whimsical?
It's going to be tough, and I'm curious to see how they're going to pull it off, because if you are a DC fan, you probably are a big fan of the DC television universe on the CW, because that's where the only worth a shit live action DC is really taking place. I mean, we loved almost all Batman movies, even the older ones, besides maybe Nipplegate with George Clooney. And
which we used as the picture for the thumbnail in the last one. So.
They did so good with Nolan's Batman, and then ever since then, I mean, the Man of Steel was okay. The Brandon Routh Superman before that was okay. Yeah. But I liked Man of Steel just fine. I liked I liked Batman vs Superman for what it was, and it's just like, I don't know if they're just missing a beat, but the coolness of DC in a weird, quirky way is actually put together pretty well on the CW. And, they did Flashpoint on The Flash. I don't know if you're caught up with the Flash.
I am not.
I don't know how much of it you've seen. I think there's 4 seasons of it now.
Right.
But I watch it religiously. I love The Flash on CW. So they did Flashpoint, and theirs was pretty low-key. Barry time travels, the Flash, Barry Allen, time travels a lot from the get-go in that show, from season 1 forward. I mean, the whole thing is like, go back in time to see if you can save your mother from being murdered by the Reverse Flash. And, he time travels at least once or twice a season or whatever, but eventually it gets to the point where he goes back in time and finally does save his mom. And that causes Flashpoint in their universe. And then, he's whatever it is, but since they don't have the license to Batman and Superman and stuff on the CW, they kind of had to do their own story, and they basically make it to the point where Barry kind of has to go back in time and let his mom die. But and they do a really great analogy of time travel, his father, Henry Allen, in another universe is the Jay Garrick Flash. Correct. And he says, you can, once you go back in time and change something, it's like breaking a glass. Yep. You can go back in time and fix that glass, but it's never going to be quite as strong as it was when you broke it. So, you put a bunch of glass together, you glue it together. It may look almost as good as it looked when you busted it, but it's not. You've already broke it once, you put it together. So really that's kind of the lesson he tries to teach Barry. It's like, you can keep going back in time and doing what you want, but you're always going to miss something. Something will always change to the point where it's not worth doing this. So he eventually goes back and lets his mom die, and it's sad. But even after that's all said and done, he's like, it should be back to normal. And it's not. There's things that have changed and stuff, and that's their Flashpoint. So really, the universe that they're living in now is the Flashpoint. Is
the altered universe.
And he's just sort of had to rebuild his relationships with people, and they do eventually, because it's a CW show, so it has to be a little happy with the pretty teens
and a little teeny
stuff. Yeah. It is what it is. But
thank you, sir.
You got it, man.
We're drinking.
We're drinking beers on this one. So
brought to you by Sam Adams.
Sam Adams,
the cool, refreshing taste.
Sam Adams, if you'd like to sponsor this show,
of a nor'easter. Mm-hmm. Sam Adams.
It's I think it's possible for them to do a Flashpoint type movie, but it won't be as cool as it should be.
And I think it's probably going to be called Flashpoint, but it's not going to be Flashpoint.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And that's okay. As long as they're doing what they think they need to do, I'll keep watching shit.
Yeah.
And, hey.
Yeah. Wonder Woman was good.
And Aquaman, it sounds like they've already started to do some early screenings, and it sounds like it's pretty good.
That's good.
Sounds like it's an emotional movie for some reason, so I'm excited to see what that's going to be.
It's tough to say because obviously DC and Warner Brothers are kind of, they're a little bit with their pre-screenings. Right. Batman vs Superman, they did the whole thing where everybody would come out and tweet like, "Oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen." Then it kind of flopped a little bit. As audience critics and then focus groups are all going to be a little bit different as to what you are going to do. Plus, paid people, whatever it is. So I always just kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt, because people were like, Wonder Woman's going to be whatever, and then it was amazing. It was the best DC movie by far was Wonder Woman. And
she really carried it into
Justice League. She was the best.
She carried it into Justice League.
So
absolutely.
It proves that they know how to do it. They struck gold.
They have the template.
They have the template. They know that they can do it.
Yeah.
It's not like every DC movie sucks and flops. They nailed it with Wonder Woman. So they can do it. It's possible. It's just consistency. I mean, they don't have a blueprint like Marvel does, and like you said, it's reactionary.
It's reactionary.
Everything they do seems to be a reaction to everything Marvel does. So you're dark and broody, that's kind of your thing, and then you're like, oh, everybody kind of likes the kooky, funny Marvel, so we're going to kind of be like that. But I was like, well, I don't know if that works exactly well, and then it just goes back and forth like that.
The thing that drives me nuts, too, is why bring Joss Whedon, of all freaking people, to do it? Because,
Mr. Marvel himself.
He did such a great job with Age of Ultron. Like, I'm sorry, you want to talk about a movie that really let you down?
He did good with the original Avengers.
Yes, but the Age of Ultron was
a bit of a
every
flop
time I
of
watch
Avengers,
that, I get more and more
angry.
I just get more and more disappointed.
Because it's an Avengers movie, and if you saw the first one, you're like, oh my god, this was perfect. Like, it nailed it. And then they go back, and it's like, you missed the point.
And so maybe that's
the whole thing.
Maybe that's a good segue, because obviously the Russos are the ones that are doing Marvel's Avengers Infinity War, which, hey, guys, guess what? Raiden and I spent like an hour doing a whole thing about when things were coming out, and then a week later, Marvel and Disney decide, oh, I'm going to go ahead and shoot you in the freaking ass. And now Infinity War is coming up on the 27th, which is a week before it was previously opening. The reason why this is because Disney is pleasantly surprised with the reception of Black Panther and wants to build off of that success. So they're basically saying, yes, we are so confident that Black Panther is going to continue to do so well and hit so many people that as soon as they're out of that theater, they're going to jump right in line and order tickets for the Infinity Wars.
Yep.
And then they also want, because it's a Disney entity, the Solo movie, Star Wars, to have its own share of the box office. So what they're hoping is we move it up a week, and then everybody goes out and sees it, and then the fever dies down finally after Black Panther and Infinity War, and now Solo has a chance. The cool thing about that, though, is Fox decided to give the old middle fingers before everything was even settled and said, we're putting Deadpool right in line with Solo. So that's going to be a really cool week to kind of see how they do when they go head-to-head.
Oh, yeah.
But what's your feelings as far as the overall... because this sent shockwaves with everything, because
I was surprised to see
Disney decided to just
usually don't bump a movie forward.
They bumped it forward, and they went, oh, and by the way, we're sending out everything for the next 3 years. So Disney has set up, they're saying, DC, Fox, Sony, you guys want to compete with us?
Here's what we're doing.
We're gonna give you fair warning when we're putting these movies out.
They're literally like, here's our next play.
But here's the fun part is, obviously, with Infinity War, that is all rhetoric. Because you can decide, we're going to put it out May 3rd. You know what? We're going to put it out the week that your big movie's out. And I think at some point, the shoe was on the other foot very recently, because I believe that DC decided to put Batman versus Superman against something else for a short period of time. And then when they found out that it wasn't doing very well, they went, we're going to go ahead and move it back, And so, kind of what's your feelings as far as just everything in general, how this is going?
I think, first of all, obviously Disney with the Marvel, they know that Infinity War will be a hit basically no matter what they do. So
everybody's looking forward to
everybody's going to go watch it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be as big as Black Panther very easily. I mean, the first Avengers blew everybody out of the water.
It's probably going to be bigger. I'd hate to say it.
Oh, it should be. Well, even Age of Ultron, which wasn't great, blew people out of the water money-wise because it was an Avengers movie. Yeah. So it's like every time the Avengers culmination comes, that's kind of like a new period on the story of Marvel. You go prequel movie or like prequel of the first movies, Avengers. That's the first full stop. New set of movies, Ultron, full stop. New set of movies,
that's why they call
Avengers.
Them phases. Yeah.
So it's going to be huge no matter what you do. Now I have to ask you quick because you might know better than me, and I could have Googled it, but I just haven't. Are they still going to do 2 parts to Infinity War?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Infinity War, one is this year, and then I believe
is the next one next year at the same time.
2019, 2020. I can't remember. I think it's 2019 though.
Because I remember reading the original plan was 2 parts, and then they were actually the preliminary posters would
kind of like Justice League.
They would say Infinity War Part 1, but they don't have Part 1 on it anymore.
Correct.
So I'm assuming they're just gonna.
They are doing a Part 2.
They'll just maybe name it something a little bit different, or
right. And the cool thing is that so if you guys want to bone up real quick on the literature as far as what you're going to be seeing, go to your local comic book store and look at.
Open a beer quick.
Infinity Gauntlet, okay? Because there's two big books that you need to read if you want to actually know what you're talking about and look at. One is Infinity Gauntlet, and one is Infinity War. So don't get confused. You're probably going to get sold on, oh, God, that's the one. It says Infinity War.
Yeah,
that's the one I need.
Yeah.
You want Infinity Gauntlet, because that's actually
the
story of Thanos
to the war.
And Adam Warlock. And then Infinity War is what the next one
is
I
Adam
assume.
Warlock then the character at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that they're creating?
Yes.
Is that Adam? Okay.
Yes.
See, this is him being more versed than me, but I can pick up the clues. So overall, I think with Infinity War they can move it wherever they want, but definitely I think they were more motivated because they didn't want it to bump up against Solo. Disney owns Star Wars now. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Probably, I don't know if I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than you. Maybe. I fucking love Star Wars. I've loved it since I was a kid. Totally into it, totally into the whole thing. Used to read the books and shit in high school like a goddamn weirdo. So, loved, I like the prequels too. I'm one of the weirdos who liked the prequels. Not that much, but I thought the third one was pretty decent.
Second one, start it from halfway.
Yeah, and just go from there and you're fine.
When Obi-Wan's like this, and they're getting ready to get fed to the beast.
Yeah, that's
when
there.
You start. That's when you start. Everything else before that is
because then you'll see their fight, you'll see Yoda fight, and then you'll go into the third one, which is cool. But I love Star Wars. I love Rogue One. I thought it was perfect.
Good
My
movie.
wife was like, I don't know about this. I'm like, yeah, but it's a prequel set in a perfect time. Like this is the whole like here's how you get the Death Star plans, and you go straight into it. Really cool characterization of Darth Vader in that. So I'm really looking forward to Solo only because I'm a Star Wars fan. Although I think Solo's not going to be very good. Only because I think it's treading water that doesn't really need to be tread. I mean, the Harrison Ford Han Solo just kind of is a thing. And your Rogue One, a Star Wars story, it's
had to be told.
It's characters that didn't really exist before, so you could make them a little disposable, but they were still likable, they were still well written. Now you're starting to mess with Han Solo, Chewbacca, Lando Calrissian, which I think Donald Glover as Lando is going to be the only good part in that movie, if I had to guess. But it's just one of those things where I think they have to give Solo leeway, because if they put Infinity War so close within a 2 or 3 week span, that's already going to take money away from it anyway.
Yeah.
And Deadpool 2 is just going to blow it out of the water, because the first Deadpool was amazing, and this one shouldn't be any different in terms of how good it should be.
You're talking about a surprise juggernaut that you're going up against, and Disney. You're Disney, so you don't have to worry. Even if you take a bath on Solo, you're still in the black completely.
You're still,
especially since Black Panther decided to put you in the black. For the year,
you're good. You can make no money on Infinity War and be fine, and I think you will make a lot of money. So
and I think that's why some of the other ones that they posted, they went, well, screw it. Why not just go ahead and say now when we're going to put them out, because we're already in the black. Like, we don't give a shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we move on with the new dates of superhero movies, you bring up an interesting conversation here with Solo and everything, and you kind of talked about it, was the reason why Rogue One
Mm-hmm.
was a good movie.
Yep.
And was a good story is because it needed to be told.
Yep.
I think what you're kind of in a roundabout way saying is the Solo movie doesn't have that feel. Does it need to be told? The thing that I like about Han Solo as a character is he has no backstory. What's his name? God damn it.
So
George Lucas.
Drink the beers while
George
you do
Lucas has always talked about his affinity for spaghetti westerns and for samurai movies, right? And the two things that you find in those two types of genres is the dark and mysterious guy that shows up. He opens the doors and he's there. There is no backstory. There is no that's what I like about Han Solo is before this, and I'm gonna go see this movie. I'm mildly excited about it, but I've always liked that character because he's a badass in the sense that he just doesn't give a shit about people. He doesn't give a shit about people, himself, or anything. And now you're going to make him someone who gives a shit about something. And so I think that's the part that I really struggle with when it comes to that story is, man, Lando, again, like, scoundrels are scoundrels. Like, I would rather go to my grave not knowing where Lando came from. But I'm going to find out anyway.
He's just a dude in a cape in a cloud city, and that's just his thing. He's just a guy who's chill, hangs out, and he's like, I just make Bespin gas. It's like, okay,
Have you ever wondered how Vader got to Cloud City before those guys?
You know, I think, and that's a totally separate conversation.
I know, I'm going all over.
That's okay. We can talk about fucking Star Wars all night. The tough part about The Empire Strikes Back, which, by the way, is the best Star Wars movie. I don't give a shit who you are. That is the best.
It is
standalone.
It is.
And it's just well made because it wasn't directed by George Lucas. Sorry, George Lucas, you had a cool vision, but you made the prequels whatever you do.
But hey, he did the right thing. He gave it to somebody else who could make that vision come true.
And so The Empire Strikes Back was not directed by him, and that's why it was good, probably. But there's some timeline issues in the movie where it seems like some people are saying, oh, hey, it's unrealistic because Luke goes to Dagobah for like a day, trains, and goes and fights Darth Vader, who's been a Jedi.
And almost wins.
And the Sith Lord for 40 years. He's like, And most people either write it off as, hey, he's the son of the Chosen One. He's basically the Chosen One also. So he's got these insane force powers, like, you know, in the new movies, Rey, who just is untrained, but like, I'm fucking awesome. I can fight Ben Solo.
I don't know why I'm doing this.
Who has Chosen One DNA in him, too. Like, I can do whatever. But then some people are like, well, you never really know how long Luke was training. He could have been training for months on Dagobah. You don't really know the timeline of, like, when he was, and, like, when Lando...
And so they revert back to regular space travel where it took them 6 months to get from one end of the,
because they're saying
the universe to the other
the whole
end.
thing about when Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon goes to the asteroid field, and they get bumped around and shit, and their hyperdrive's all fucked up. And they're like, oh, this system's really close, but it could have taken them a month to get there, and that's, like, close. You don't know, because the movie's...
I could see that,
the movie's the movie. I mean, it is what it is. So, when, you know, you're saying about Darth Vader, maybe he already kind of knew that, you know, oh, I know that Lando Calrissian is here, and my bounty hunters are kind of giving me intel, so I should go there, and then just, I'm here.
And Leia's his daughter.
Join us, Bob. Yeah.
Leia's his daughter.
Even though
he has that force sense to know where she's at.
He doesn't know she exists until right about that moment, because he knows Luke is his son, because they go fight, and he's like, oh, I'm your father. He doesn't say, Luke, I'm your father. He says, no, I'm your father.
Even though he's in a goddamn ship with her for... who knows how long?
Yeah, he captures Princess Leia
in episode 4.
Yeah, and he's like, I wonder. This is weird.
we love Star Wars.
We love Star Wars. There are inconsistencies, but that's the fun of it, and that's the whole point you're making is like, the first time we see Han Solo, he's a swagger monster. He comes in, he's cool. He's just, I mean, it's like young Harrison Ford is just like this cool, young, handsome, doesn't give a shit about anything, sits at the bar, kills a guy. He kills him. He's like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
He shot first.
And that's his whole bag. You know, but then he's sort of redeemed at the end of that movie because he comes back, even though, you know, he got his money and left. He came back because he's got a little bit of something in him that just wants to be...
He saves the galaxy.
He wants to be a good dude, too. Like, he's not a bad guy. He's just kind of rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to know. He was a smuggler. He smuggled. He did his thing. But
he doesn't know how to be a to be a hero.
Yep, and like Chewbacca's kind of his moral conscience because he's kind of there helping him along, and then he kind of falls for the girl, and it's a good story. And like you said, I mean, everybody wants to see a Solo movie because they love Han Solo, but they don't want to see it because there's really no good reason to jump back in time and explore. Rogue One was about characters you've never heard of that don't exist in canon until the time that they're created, and then they exist and they tell a cool story, and then it's over. It's just a nice little pocket story about Star Wars. But now they're going to make Solo. They're probably going to make an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. So hopefully,
they are. They're definitely going to.
And they're still talking about
who they're talking about maybe getting for that.
Who's that?
Fucking Conor McGregor.
Well, they shouldn't do that shit. They should get Ewan McGregor, who played goddamn Obi-Wan and was the best part of the prequels. So
could you see Conor McGregor being Obi-Wan Kenobi?
If he do that, I might fucking not go watch it. I'll be mad. I'm like, God damn it. Because Ewan McGregor's right there. He's perfect for it. He is Obi-Wan Kenobi as much as Alec Guinness is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And, they're going to make a Boba Fett movie, even though they don't have to, because part of Boba Fett's allure is nobody knows what the fuck.
Yeah.
That was even more of his allure before the prequels came out, because before...
Then you find out...
He's a clone.
You break down that third wall, and you find out that he's a clone.
He's a Jango Fett clone.
Yeah.
But he's unaltered, so he gets to grow up like a normal life instead of being accelerated like all the regular clones. Right. But yeah, before, I remember when he was barely a part of Star Wars, he was just in The Empire Strikes Back for like a second. And Darth Vader's like, no disintegrations. He's like, okay. And then in the third one, he flies around like an idiot and gets eaten by the Sarlacc. The end. And I remember being
comes out of the Sarlacc.
I remember being a teenager reading all the stories about Bo, because they built this weird mystical thing around him. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, he's actually Jango Fett's son. He's a clone. And whatever. And they'll just make a fucking story about him flying around the universe.
He's the original Korg.
Kind of. He was just a throwaway.
Take a full circle. He's the original Korg. He's the fucking guy who, for some reason, it just stuck.
Yep.
Everybody liked the way he looked. It was like, oh, the Mandalorian helmet is really goddamn cool.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about this guy. I like his look.
We're just going to make up some shit about this guy.
So.
Yep. And then they do. And that's the weird part about Star Wars is we want lots of cool new canon info. But honestly, the best new canon info has come from the Clone Wars and Rebels, the cartoons, which, I haven't watched them super heavily because they are aimed a little younger than me. But, I've watched some of the Clone Wars, and there's some cool new stuff that I've seen that Rebels is doing that's, like added really cool parts in canon, and I'm like, oh, geez, they should... If the movie makers are watching, they need to, get in contact with those animators and directors, because they care about the franchise more than some of the... and it's, like we're talking about with DC, it's like, find your people who are so stupidly into it. Like, find the guy who was like, you know what, Ryan Reynolds... I know you were Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is just a terrible fucking movie. And, you want to talk about a shitty superhero movie, pick that one. And it's like they just damned Wade Wilson in that movie.
Correct.
Just the stupidest way ever. Find the director who is like, Ryan Reynolds, I know you were born to play this character. You are Wade Wilson. Just somebody fucked you up. I'm going to make you proper Wade Wilson. And then they just fucking nail it because they know the character. They know that Ryan Reynolds is the perfect comedic weird chops to be him. And then make your movie. Find your guys who are going to do what they're going to do. And I think
the thing with that too is, with that is Reynolds decided to put his money where his mouth was.
Yep.
He doubled down big time. He went, I'll use my own money and we'll get this made. I think if going back to DC... If Ben Affleck was really so much foot in, foot out, and he just went, you know what?
Full blown into Batman.
I'll freaking put all my money into this. It would be all right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Because he was one of the best parts of DC. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a good Batman. I think he was a well-done Batman. No worse than Christian Bale. And Christian Bale was a great Batman most of the time. Sometimes
I think the difference between the two guys is it's not the actual character. It's the character of the person playing that.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck seems to be the kind of guy who really takes criticism very harshly.
Yeah.
Christian Bale does not give a shit.
You know he doesn't give a shit if you saw his Terminator rant at that one guy.
Oh, what the hell?
Oi! Yelling English style at this kid, like the key grip, who just didn't want to be there.
Got his latte wrong or something. Like, he walked in the shot or something like
that. Doesn't give a shit. But yeah, Ben Affleck takes things pretty personally. I think his whole career he has.
That's kind of hard. Is you got a guy who just really when things are going south, he doesn't pull his bootstraps up. He kind of kicks his shoes off and runs.
I think he really wanted to prove himself since Daredevil as well, being kind of a fuck around.
And he's been a really good Batman.
Yeah, he's been a great Batman.
Can we argue that? No.
I don't think we can. Well, I don't want to because I agree with you. I think he's been as good a Batman as Michael Keaton was a good Batman, Christian Bale was a good Batman, Val Kilmer was an okay Batman, George Clooney was George Clooney as Batman.
Yeah.
But I think he was easily as good as Bale was at any time. Bale was helped by like The Dark Knight being one of the best written superhero movies that you can think of. I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker was perfect, as an antagonist.
And Bale himself has said in numerous interviews that he realizes that he could have done a better job. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The guy who actually put Batman back on the map is saying, you know what, I really wish I would have done it differently in The Dark Knight Rises,
because they caught lightning in a bottle with The Dark Knight. It was just perfect, and
I think anybody would probably say that's the greatest superhero movie
in general.
Yeah, it was a detective movie with comic book characters.
Yeah,
it was a whodunit with comic book.
Some
characters.
of the best, amazing. Some of the best movies like that are two things at once in a cool way. Yeah. That's why I love the Russos doing Infinity War.
Yeah,
because Russos did The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Which I think is maybe my favorite.
It's Marvel's.
It's a cool
Dark Knight.
It's a cool like CIA whodunit heist type movie with Captain America.
It very much is.
And it's just super cool, well done. Like it's choreographed well. The music is great. The characterization is like perfect with everybody. Like that was a great comic book movie.
It introduced really good, strong characters that were able to pull later on, and
you build Captain America really great. You build tons of character onto Black Widow.
Yeah.
You introduce Falcon and make him super cool right off the bat. You give Bucky a ton of characterization too. You add the whole Shield and is corrupt with Hydra. It's just really well done. Nick Fury is probably the best movie that Sam Jackson was a part of in terms of they all just, and the Russos are, because that's why they're just amazing directors, and that's why I think they were given the helm on a lot of stuff, because The Winter Soldier was so well received. And it's these guys are guys that, like we were saying before, somebody, you find your guys who are going to do your shit and, make it happen.
Right.
So, for sure.
All right,
for sure.
We're going to get out of here after this. So, just in case you guys are looking forward, since we, like I said, Disney decided to F us in the B as far as all the things. I wanted to give you guys at least a little bit of a teaser as far as movies that are coming down the pipe. So one that we didn't talk about, and there's nothing out there yet, is X-Men Dark Phoenix, which opens November 2nd of 2018 this year. So look forward to that. As we find out more about that, we'll talk about it. The Hellboy reboot, which at first I was hesitant, but
who's playing Hellboy in this?
It's the dude from Stranger Things. I can't remember the guy's name.
The older
guy.
sheriff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That opens January 11th, 2019. New Mutants, which is X-Men, which I was really surprised to see because I thought that they were adapting that comic into a TV show, but apparently it's a movie now.
That's what I thought too.
Opens February 22nd, 2019, and then Captain Marvel on March 8th, 2019. So far what we've heard is Captain Marvel, people will not be disappointed with that movie. I don't know how you could be.
Yeah.
To find the rest of that list, it is on Collider.com right now, so thank you guys at Collider for letting us put that on the show today. And I don't know. Everything looks really good. I'm excited about the Hellboy reboot now. The Crow, it sounds like they're starting to shore up the reboot on that, and it could be out as early as 2019 as well. I'll let you know. The Crow is probably my favorite superhero / vigilante movie ever.
The Crow was
the original one. All the other ones are shite. City of Angels, not so bad because it has Iggy Pop and some other things, but man, the Crow
but
itself
the Brandon Lee Crow.
Damn. And you think about in that movie, and I don't want to get too far into this, but CGI was before Jurassic World.
Yep.
Or Jurassic Park, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were able to superimpose Brandon Lee's face on another person before you. I don't know how they could do it
now. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how. Now you can do it on your phone, but back then, Jesus Christ,
it was that's a movie that
amazing,
holds a special place in a lot of people's heart. Is The Crow? It's a movie I've literally never seen before, but I know enough about it, hearing it through the grapevine. You know, Brandon Lee, and he was shot on set because they thought it was a blank, and it wasn't. It killed him. It was the whole thing, and that was a cool movie people were into. So cool that Sting of wrestling fame made himself the Crow for like years thereafter. So I mean, I see what you're saying, my dude. I get it. I never saw it though. I never saw it. I should see it.
We'll send you home with it.
Yeah. I may never watch
all the other ones. So
I'm sure it's streaming somewhere.
Just stay away from the Crow Wicked game.
Please
do. That has Edward Furlong as the freaking Crow. It's a little rough.
Edward Furlong was kind of a little bitch in American History X, so I don't know if I am into that.
He was even a bitch in Terminator 2.
He was.
So
Edward Furlong, a bitch. You seen this, Edward?
You've seen this. You heard it here first.
You heard.
Although that's probably what everybody's been saying for the last 20 years.
Yeah, he's fine. He made money on his movies. He doesn't care.
But, man, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course, man.
And
of course.
Make sure you listen to his podcast, Knowledge from the Couch podcast. It's on Stitcher and Apple and Google Play and all that stuff.
All the places.
And, you got anything else to talk about, man?
Oh, dude, I have tons of things to talk about, but I know you need to wrap your show up. We could talk for another 3 hours on bullshit. So we'll save some for future episodes.
Yeah.
We'll save it. We'll save
very
it.
soon.
For sure.
And thank you guys again for watching All Things Action Videocast. This has been Aaron with my special guest,
Kyle. What up?
What up? We're two dudes.
We're two dudes talking at a camera.
We've been drinking too much.
Maybe.
So thank you, Sam Adams. I almost said Brian Adams.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
You can
Adams.
Thank Brian Adams too.
Straight from the heart.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. All right, guys. Until next week, I'm Aaron, and this is Kyle. And we appreciate you watching. And that's it.
That's it.
We're just gonna go to black right now. 3, 2, 1, black.